A no refunds policy might sound firm, but if your policy feels unfair or unclear, it can actually create more chargebacks and more problems. So in this video, I'm going to show you what makes a refund policy feel reasonable in real life, especially for digital products and online programs, and how to write one that sets expectations, reduces drama, and is easier for you to enforce consistently. Hi, I'm Liz Stapleton, an attorney turned online business owner, and I help creators, course creators, and digital product sellers legally protect their online businesses without the overwhelm. Now, this video is meant for educational and informational purposes only. It is not legal advice, and if you need specific legal advice for your situation, then you should contact an attorney located in your jurisdiction. Now, by the end of the video, you'll have a simple framework for setting a refund policy that fits what you sell, and I'll give you a few example structures you can adapt. So first up, what a refund policy is actually for. So a refund policy's job isn't to make you sound tough. A refund policy's job is to set expectations, reduce misunderstandings, and give you a consistent process you can follow. Because in most disputes, the biggest issue is not the law, it's the customer expected one thing, you expected another, and the policy didn't make it clear. So reasonable depends on what you sell. So let's use one example so this doesn't feel super abstract. So imagine you have two different offers. Offer A is a $49 instant download template, and offer B is a $997 cohort-based group program with weekly calls. The refund policy that feels reasonable for offer A is not necessarily the same for offer B. So when you're deciding what's reasonable, you should ask yourself, is it instant access or staged delivery? Is it support heavy or self-serve? Can the product be fully consumed quickly? What is the customer's realistic evaluation window before they know it's right for them? So there are 6 elements of a strong refund policy. First, a clear eligibility window. So you need to decide the number of days and define when exactly it starts. For example, within 7 days of purchase, or maybe it's before you download the files. And this can really matter, especially if you're based in the EU and their upcoming right to withdrawal rule that takes effect in June 2026. The second element is clear product categories and different rules when needed. So if you sell multiple things, templates, a membership, a course, and one-on-one services, you can have different refund rules for each. You just need to be clear, because it makes sense that a membership might have a different refund policy come month 3 than a course would in the first month. Next, you need to define what counts as delivered or accessed. For digital products, this can really matter. If someone gets immediate access, your policy needs to say what happens after access is granted. The next element is tackling partial refunds or prorating rules, which can be optional depending on where you're at. There are some requirements, again, from the right of withdrawal out of the EU, taking effect in terms of prorated refunds, but that's a whole nother topic. Generally, if you sell subscriptions or longer programs, you need to decide, whether you're going to offer partial refunds, and if you do, under what conditions. Next, you need to think about chargebacks and dispute process. So you don't have to write a novel here, but it helps if you have a line saying something like, if you have an issue, contact us first so we can resolve it. Or, for me, if someone even threatens a chargeback, they go on my blacklist. They can't buy from me ever again. I don't want to deal with them. So, I make sure that my refund policies are very clear. And if you are still going to go for a chargeback, then I will blacklist you, So just what does your process look like when you're dealing with a chargeback? Your refund policy and your terms are what's going to allow you to fight back and win those cases. Anytime I've submitted evidence on a chargeback, I've won. They are absolutely possible to win. But they require you to have clear policies and terms and for people to agree to them. And you also want to make sure you're sticking to them and you have a clear process for how you're going to handle any chargebacks. And then the final element of a good, strong refund policy is a contact method and response timeline. So tell people how they can request a refund or what they need to do to get a refund and when they can expect a response. Now, I kind of touched on this a little bit on the EU right of withdrawal concepts. But basically, if you sell to consumers internationally, you may run into these cooling off concepts in some jurisdictions. And I'm keeping it high level because the details really matter and they can vary. But here's kind of the practical takeaway. Clarity at checkout matters. Terms acceptance matters. So make sure no one can buy your product until they agree to your terms. And your policy should match how your product is delivered. If you sell globally or have a significant international customer base, or you're targeting people in the EU, which is where the right of withdrawal new rule from there comes from, then you have some very specific language if you want to say no refunds on digital products, but that can't apply to subscriptions. Again, The EU's right to withdrawal is a whole other conversation, but I want you to be aware of them so that you can kind of tailor your policies as needed and get the legal advice if you need it. Next up, I want to talk about making it enforceable in real life, because here's the part that makes your policy actually enforceable day to day. First, you want to have it in multiple places. So that could be your sales page, your checkout page, and the receipt email is also a great place for it as well. You want it written in plain English. You want your refund policy to be easily understandable. If your grandma can't understand it, it's probably not clear enough. That's a kind of general rule of thumb I like to use. And then you want to be consistent. Consistency wins more than perfect legal language. If you apply your policy randomly, it becomes harder to rely on. So if you're going to have a refund policy, stick to it. I know sometimes, it doesn't mean you can't on occasion waive something, but you need to state in your terms that while you may, at your own discretion, occasionally waive the policy, it does not make it unenforceable for everyone else. And just stick to it. I actually had someone recently I found out wrote a blog post very annoyed with me because I stuck to my refund policy. And they were like, just so you know, she really sticks to her policy. I realized it was my fault and I requested outside the refund period, but I was annoyed. And I was like, go ahead and write your I'm mad blog post about the fact that I, hold strong to my policies. So let's go ahead and talk about some example policy structures. And I'm going to give you a few examples that you can adapt. So example one is something like an instant download template. So you might do something like, due to the digital nature of this product, all sales are final once the files have been downloaded, accessed. If you have trouble accessing the files, contact us at whatever your contact is and we'll help. Example number two could be a course with modules. You could do something like, refunds are available within 7 days of purchase, provided you have not completed more than module 1 to request a refund, email, or, submit a ticket wherever. And, honestly, when you're adding stipulations like have not completed more than module 1, I think you are adding more admin to yourself. So I'd just be mindful if you're going to add stipulations like that, if you really want to deal with the admin of checking, or if you just want to do a flat 7-day policy. Example number 3, subscriptions. You can cancel anytime. Cancellation stops future billing. We do not offer retroactive refunds for prior billing periods, right? And that could be something different. You can say when you sign up for a subscription, you have 7 days to get a refund. On the first month, it's not applicable to every subsequent billing, whatever the case may be. And like I said, these are just examples. Your best policy depends on what you sell, how it's delivered, and what you're comfortable with in your business. And then finally, any legally required cooling off periods. So the goal is not no refunds or all refunds. The goal is a policy that's clear, fair, and aligned with what you actually sell. So customers know what they can expect and you're not constantly negotiating. And if you're not sure whether your business is missing something important, I create a free guide walking through the 5 most common legal blind spots online entrepreneurs overlook. You can grab that in the description below. And if you want a follow-up video, tell me what you're selling, tell me your questions, and I'll gladly create some additional videos. In the meantime, like, subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next video.